Florence Eshalomi.
Thank you, Ms Noakes, and it's a pleasure to serve under your chairship this morning. And I would also like to pay tribute to the ever omnipresent member for Strangford for securing this really important debate, which is very close to my heart, and I know very close to his heart. We often speak about Nigeria. As many members will know, my family heritage is Nigeria. And it's a subject that's close to my heart, including for my constituents in Vauxhall. And the Nigerian diaspora in the UK continues to grow. They're a large community. The last ONS figures estimated that there were 215,000 Nigerian-born people living in the UK. And I'm very sure that that figure is much higher. So it would be interesting to see what are the figures from the 2021 census highlights. I also declare an interest as one of the officers of the All-Party Parliamentary Group on Nigeria. And Mr. Oakes, last weekend, 2 weeks ago, I joined many Christians across the world in celebrating Easter. I'm very active in my church, and I read on Easter Sunday. And for us as Christians, Easter marks the most important weekend in the Christian calendar, where we symbolise the rebirth, forgiveness and redemption. And when I attended Mass that Easter Sunday, it wasn't lost on me that I'm blessed to be able to practice my religion freely, practice my beliefs freely. And a number of people are able to do that. And it wasn't lost on me in that it's not just Nigerians in the world who face this persecution, but a lot of people across many areas across the world. And I look back to my election in 2019. One of the first things I did as the new MP for Vauxhall in January 2020 was respond to a really disgraceful anti-Islamic graffiti spray painted on one of the mosques in central Brixton. And I remember that day speaking to residents and people, faithgoers, and people from the mosque. It showed me how devastating these cowardly attacks are. And it's not just in individuals who want to freely practice their faith, but it's also to the communities, the wider communities, who all feel targeted when impacts and issues like this happen. So it is important that we look at the issue of where people aren't able to celebrate and practice their faith. And I've been appalled by the stories of religiously motivated persecutions and violence in Nigeria. And, members have mentioned the Open Doors report, and it's quite concerning. I think a lot of members were present at the Open Doors reception in January earlier this year. And what struck me at that reception was the fact that they highlighted that Nigeria was in one of the top 10, number 7. And it's really disturbing to see frequent reports of kidnapping occurring and targeting the Christian community. Last May, we saw Samuel Kanu, the head of the Methodist Church in Nigeria, kidnapped after being abducted on a highway in Abia. And in September, we saw dozens of members of the Cherubim and Cherubim Church kidnapped while attending an all-night service in Mangani. And we have to be honest that these attacks have a clear religious aspect. And they are a very terrifying reminder of the incident of the kidnapping of the schoolgirls, Chibok schoolgirls, which happened by Boko Haram and continue to happen. That happened in 2014, but all those girls are still not free. There are still issues of those girls being kidnapped. And whether it's conflict, whether it's persecution, we see that women and girls are always the main targets. They're the ones who suffer. And throughout history, we've seen how unchecked religious persecution and violence, it doesn't dissipate. Instead, all too often it builds amongst the perpetrators and makes it harder to build the fair and free society we all deserve.